to another episode of The Tapestry. I am Dr. Francois Booker Drew, and this show is really designed for you to hear the narratives of amazing individuals and get nuggets of knowledge and how you can take their experiences and lessons and use them for your own. And so today I have a dear friend. I always have amazing people and dear friends on this show, and I am just elated to introduce to you Mateo Magdaleno, who is simply dynamic. And he is an internationally known community servant leader and professional empowerment speaker with an inspiring story that stresses the importance of never giving up on the pursuit of not just education, but on you. And despite any challenges that you face, he is the one who will tell you you can do it. He is always giving back to the community and has dedicated his life to helping people understand not only the pursuit of education, but their own value. He challenges young people and encourages all of us to be resilient in our journey, and that he uses real life experiences through his own story, which you will be amazed at, and how he's reached millions of people as a champion for education on shows and stations like CNN, and he's been on NBC, Univision, and in so many different publications. This man has a resume out of this world. The honors that he has received, we would be here for months reading through it. Right now, he serves as the Chief Innovation Officer for CityScape Schools in Dallas, and he continues to be a mentor and inspire so many through his message and just his very presence. And so, Mateo, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Booker Drew. It is truly an honor.
Well, I want to say you are the first man that I have had on this show. And there is a reason, yes, there is a reason why I wanted to bring you on, because you are such inspiration, and your journey is one that demonstrates no matter what you go through, you can do it. And I want to allow people the opportunity for a glimpse of the greatness that you've given to me and so many others. And so I really want to talk about today. Our focus is really on how do you use your story to soar, because you've done that. And so talk a little bit about your narrative and how you started, where you started to where you are now.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Booker Drew, first of all, I really am humbled, and I know everything that you say about me. I've always said that you can only see in other people who you are, and and I think that's something that ever since I was a little kid, I try to always see the goodness in people. And so to answer your question, and please keep me on time, because I get really passionate about the work that we do. So please keep me on time, Dr. Drew. So this work about sharing, the power of sharing your story, was actually circumstantial that I began to share it. And quite frankly, and if we could just have a moment of realness, a moment of speaking, I call it speaking naked, without any barriers or any like, oh my gosh, how are people going to interpret what I said? Because when I first started this speaking and doing public speaking, I was actually reluctant to share my story because I was embarrassed. Quite frankly, I did not want to tell people that I was a college student going to one of the most prestigious and most expensive universities while living in a homeless shelter with my elderly mother and my mentally disabled sister. And what ended up happening was that I found that I started sharing it with some people just in private, and I didn't realize that my story was meant to heal theirs and for them to find their own purpose. And so when I graduated from college, I one of my first jobs was I was assistant dean and director of the first office of diversity and community engagement for a private university. And so my job was to recruit underserved students for a school, typically considered university, typically known for catering only to the elite and the very wealthy. And I am like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to inspire students to pursue higher education. And that's when I started sharing my story. And the story of my life was marked by being I was an immigrant from Mexico, and my mother lived in extreme poverty, and she migrated to the United States when I was a year and a half. And by the time that I was 3 years old, my father passed away in prison, leaving my mother to raise 10 children as a single mother, as an immigrant, earning minimum wage, supporting 10 children. So you can imagine the challenges and the struggles that brings. Eventually, because of what my father did, many people would hated me as a kid, and I was like, "Why do you hate me? I'm a kid. What have I done to you?" But it turns out that my dad did some really bad things while he was alive, and I paid the price for what my father did. And so people constantly say, "You'll end up just like your dad in prison." And that was also told to my brothers. And unfortunately, all of my brothers did end up in prison. And I'm the only one in my entire family not to go to prison by the grace of God. And then by the time that I was 8 years old, all of my sisters would drop out of school. And so I was left to take care of my sister Sylvia, who was gifted with Down syndrome. And so when I was a kid, I thought that my sister Sylvia was my greatest tragedy, because I didn't understand why I had to take care of a child that I didn't give a birth to. And so, we're all talking about being quarantined and this pandemic. But for me, I've been quarantining my entire childhood because I was too busy taking care of my sister Sylvia, that when all the other kids were playing outside, I was too busy cooking for her and bathing her and making sure she was taking her medications, and I couldn't take her out because of her. I always have to be monitoring because she would get seizures because of the medications that she would take. So I considered my sister Sylvia to be my greatest tragedy, first of all. And so what I didn't realize is that for many years I would ask for my situation to change, and I would remember just as a kid crying out, please God, change my situation, change. Why do I have to? Why me? I'm just a little kid. Can I just be a kid? Can I just enjoy life like every other kid and just live a normal life? Why do I have to take care of my sister Sylvia? Why do I have to? And then all the stuff that was going on in my life, I didn't understand. But what I come to realize after now connecting the dots is that sometimes whatever we consider to be our greatest tragedy is it being our greatest treasure. And Sylvia, that's my sister's name, the one I take care of since I was 8, became my greatest treasure. And everything that I am today, every award, every accomplishment, everything that I am today, I owe to my sister Sylvia. Because what I didn't realize is that if it had not been for her, I probably would have ended up just like my father and my brothers. But because I had the responsibility of caring for someone as a kid, she kept me off the streets.
Wow.
So I began to question all of us, is what do you consider to be your greatest tragedy? And then for us to begin, and how do we turn that tragedy into a triumph? How do we turn that into our greatest treasure? Because sometimes our treasures are found in the most peculiar and unsuspected places. And,
wow.
And I even remember that, people often ask, because I don't know if this happens to you as well, for Swal, they ask me, it's interesting that now, everybody wants your glory, but they don't want your story. So
yes.
They always, everybody loves the final product, but they never want to talk about the process.
Yes, it's so true.
And so I think it's important for us to speak about our story and the power of our narrative, because people only see the final product. They see the great and powerful Dr. Francois Booker Drew, but they have no idea the sacrifices. They have no idea the times that you didn't sleep at night. They had no idea the times that you went hungry, the sacrifices, the sometimes you have to give up something in order to be who you are today. And so the part of that reason of sharing our story is that we make it seem so easy, maybe because many of us don't look like what we've been through.
That's right. That's
Because
so true.
if we did, some of us would look real jacked up. We
What is
would.
it, from the toe up to the floor down, or some little thing that the kids say? It's so true. We would look a mess,
Mhm.
because of how much trauma and damage, and yet you persevered, and you didn't only persevere, you didn't survive, you thrived. So how were you able to take the kind of pain that you've gone through and then use that to empower other people?
Well, I think the first thing that I had to do was uh, change my mindset. First of all,
Mm,
one of the things that I see a lot is that, you know, uh, sometimes people who have a physical limitation, it's things that people can see, right? So if someone is in a wheelchair, people open the door for them because they can physically see their the challenge or the disability that they have. But what happens when people don't see your emotional pain, and when it comes to your mental health, the depression, because those things, we do such a good job of hiding it, right? And
yes.
and and we smile and we pretend that everything is well, but deep down inside, if people would only know that we're hurting, that we have a different type of disability, and it's a disability that people cannot see. And we go through life becoming that wounded soldier. And and some of us that are in the field of helping others, whether it be social worker, teacher, counselor, a nurse, that we're in the field of caring for others, are often times those wounded soldiers. They're so busy saving the world that we forget that sometimes we're hurting too.
Mm-hmm.
And people, oftentimes it goes unseen or unnoticed. And the first thing that I had to do is I had to transform my mind, because you can make up anything nowadays. You want new hips, you can go buy them. You can make up your face, you can make up your nose. But the hardest thing to do is to make up your mind, because there's no surgery for that. There's no surgery
Mm,
for you to make up your mind. And it just comes to a point in our lives where we got to make up our mind and say, you know what, I got to stop giving those people that spoke poorly, or they spoke negativity into my life, and say, I am not what you said of me. And this often comes and it disguises itself sometimes, oftentimes, uh, through someone that we love, because the only people that can hurt us is people that we love. And the
yeah.
only people that we give power to are people that we love. And when they begin to start speaking negativity, when they start speaking things into your life, you begin to start believing it. And for me, it was my own mother. Um, and as a kid, I didn't realize that how much of an impact it would have on my life, even now as an adult, when my mother would choose my stepfather, who would beat her over me. So I I felt that the only person in this world that is supposed to love you is your mom, but she didn't have the capacity to do so. So I always, my entire life, I had to become a chameleon because of my need to wanting to be loved by people. So I learned to be a yes person. I learned to become whatever people wanted me to be. Oh, please love me, please. Oh, what do I have to do? Oh my gosh, yes. And